October 23rd, 1944. The Formosa Strait glimmers like black steel beneath a breathless sky, hiding beneath it the most feared hunter in the Pacific. The submarine USS Tang moves just beneath the surface, her hull slick with condensation, her crew tense and wordless. Commander Richard O'Kane leans over the periscope eyepiece, his voice low and calm. Range 1,800 yards. Target convoy bearing 310. Fire 1. A hiss of compressed air cuts through the quiet. Then another. And another. 5 torpedoes rush into the abyss, invisible lines of death. Moments later, the first one finds its mark. The sea erupts. Flames climb 30 feet high as a Japanese transport splits apart, men screaming on the decks before the inferno swallows them whole. Another ship goes down, then a third. O'Kane doesn't flinch. He simply whispers, "That'll do." It is his 10th war patrol, and by now O'Kane's name is whispered with a mixture of reverence and disbelief across the Pacific Fleet. The Tang has become legend, the most lethal submarine in the United States Navy. In barely a year of combat, she has sunk more Japanese tonnage than entire squadrons combined. Her commander is only 33 years old. O'Kane's approach defies doctrine. While others strike from distance, he drives Tang straight into the heart of enemy convoys, attacking from point-blank range, sometimes under 1,000 yards. He wants to see the enemy's faces when they realize what's coming. And it works. Convoy after convoy vanishes beneath the waves, their burning wakes marking O'Kane's trail like a signature. Now, as midnight rolls past, Tang closes on a massive formation. 2 tankers, 2 freighters, and an armed escort. The convoy is vital. Fuel and ammunition bound for Luzon to repel the coming American landings in the Philippines. If O'Kane can destroy it, Japan's defense line will collapse even faster. He fires again. 4 torpedoes hit home. The 5th runs wide, vanishing into the darkness. Through the periscope, O'Kane watches the horizon turn orange, burning oil spreading like a molten sea. He orders a hard turn to line up one final shot, his 24th torpedo, the last one aboard. In the control room, the air smells of diesel and sweat. The men know they've already written themselves into history. Since sailing from Pearl Harbor on September 24th, they've sunk 9 ships in 4 weeks. Tankers, cargo vessels, destroyers. A record unmatched in the Pacific. If this attack succeeds, it will be the most destructive single patrol of the war. O'Kane doesn't boast. He never does. He simply says, "Last one, boys, let's make it perfect." At 2:55 a.m., Tang surfaces to finish the job. The moonlight cuts through the clouds just enough to glint off the periscope housing. Ahead, the dying Japanese convoy burns like a floating city in ruins. Somewhere out there, survivors are calling for help. Voices scattered across the waves. O'Kane steadies his periscope again, focused entirely on the crippled freighter still limping south. He can see the ship's stern glowing red, the outline of the rising smoke against the horizon. He orders the tube flooded. Compressed air surges through the bow. Then a single command that will echo through history. Fire 10. A torpedo leaves the tube with a dull metallic cough and disappears into the black. The helmsman counts seconds under his breath. The sonar operator listens for the impact. Nothing. Just the slow thump of the engines and the faint crackle of burning oil on the surface. O'Kane keeps his eyes fixed forward, waiting for the explosion that never comes. The soundman adjusts his headset. He hears something strange. A faint propeller whine, distant at first, then louder.
"It's coming back. Captain, she's circling," he shouts.
O'Kane freezes for a heartbeat. Every man in the control room knows what that means. Somewhere out there in the dark, a Mark 18 torpedo, one of America's newest and most perfected weapons, has jammed its gyroscope and begun a circular run. It's coming straight for them. O'Kane slams his hand against the chart table. "Left full rudder, emergency dive." But it's too late. The next sound they hear is not the crash of water or the hum of engines. It's the rising, unnatural roar of their own torpedo, the weapon that made them famous, rushing home. And in that instant, every man aboard USS Tang realizes the hunter is about to become the prey. Before the war, Richard Hetherington O'Kane was not a legend. He was a quiet, methodical engineer from Dover, New Hampshire, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, class of 1934. He spoke little, smiled rarely, and preferred the logic of machinery to the noise of conversation. Yet beneath that calm exterior there burned a relentless precision, a need to make things work perfectly, whether it was a ship, a torpedo, or a plan. In 1942, O'Kane serves as executive officer aboard the USS Wahoo under Commander Dudley "Mush" Morton, a man whose courage bordered on reckless. Morton's philosophy is brutally simple: attack first, attack fast, attack close. While most submarines stalk the edges of enemy formations, Wahoo charges straight into the heart of them, firing torpedoes from less than 1,000 yards, often from both bow and stern at once. O'Kane studies Morton's every move like a mathematician decoding a secret formula. He refines it, times it, measures it, perfects it. Together they rewrite the rule book of undersea warfare. Wahoo's log reads like a string of detonations. Transport ships, tankers, freighters, all sent to the bottom of the Pacific by a crew who refused to follow the manual. Then, in October 1943, Wahoo vanishes off the coast of Japan. No distress call, no survivors. The ocean swallows the Pioneer whole. When news reaches Pearl Harbor, O'Kane is devastated. But he also understands something. The sea spares no one, yet it rewards precision. He will not repeat Wahoo's mistakes. A month later, he is offered his own command, the brand-new USS Tang, SS-306, launched from Mare Island in October 1943. Sleek, deadly, and equipped with the latest sonar and radar, Tang is a submarine built for the next phase of the Pacific War: speed, aggression, and total independence. From the moment O'Kane takes the helm, Tang becomes a floating reflection of his mind, disciplined, silent, and lethal. He drills his men to exhaustion: rapid diving, silent running, torpedo reloads in darkness. He makes them practice battle surface maneuvers until they can rise, fire, and dive again in under 2 minutes. Every order is precise, every move rehearsed. His crew call him the skipper, but behind their respect lies a deep awe and fear. He never missed, torpedo man William Leibold would recall decades later. When O'Kane said fire, you didn't doubt it. You just waited for the explosion. By mid-1944, the Tang's war patrols read like a campaign map of destruction. In the Marianas, she ambushes convoys at point-blank range, sinking tankers that feed the Japanese fleet. In the South China Sea, she attacks under aircraft cover, diving seconds before bombs detonate overhead. Each patrol brings risk closer, but O'Kane's calm never cracks. He stands on the bridge during night attacks, binoculars pressed to his eyes as tracer rounds slice past. On one patrol off Truck Lagoon, Tang fires at a destroyer escort at 700 yards, suicidally close, and dives under the wreckage as depth charges hammer the hull. When the ocean finally settles, O'Kane looks at his watch and says quietly, "Mark the time, we'll do better next one." He believes the submarine war is a race between precision and fear. If his men hesitate, they die. If they master control, they live and win, and they do win. By the summer of 1944, O'Kane's Tang has sunk more than 90,000 tons of Japanese shipping in 4 patrols, earning her the Presidential Unit Citation and her commander the Navy Cross. Twice. But the victories come at a cost. Every return to Pearl Harbor brings news of another lost boat: Wahoo, Trigger, Shark, Harder, Growler, all gone. The ocean is littered with names. Submarine warfare has the highest casualty rate of any American service branch in the war. 1 in 5 never returns. Each time Tang leaves port, O'Kane watches the harbor fade behind him, knowing it might be the last sunrise he'll ever see. Yet he cannot stop. To him, hesitation is betrayal. "We're here to end the war, not survive it," he tells his officers. By September 1944, as the US invasion of the Philippines approaches, O'Kane and his crew are chosen for a special assignment: hunt Japan's remaining supply convoys running between Formosa, China, and the islands of Luzon. It will be Tang's fifth patrol, and it's most dangerous. The waters are narrow, the air full of patrol planes, the escorts ruthless. But to O'Kane, it's the perfect challenge. Before sailing, he walks through the sub alone, touching the metal of each torpedo tube, the brass of the diving planes, the black grips of the periscope handles. He has faith in his boat, in his men, and in the weapon that made his name: the Mark 18 electric torpedo. It leaves no wake, no bubbles, and no warning. The same weapon that within a month will turn on him. The Mark 18 torpedo is supposed to be the future. It hums instead of roars. It leaves no bubbles, no white wake curling behind it for enemy eyes to follow. It is powered by electricity, not compressed air, adapted from captured German designs of the G7E torpedo, the same weapon that once terrorized Allied shipping in the Atlantic. To the US Navy in 1944, it represents progress, precision, and a quiet kind of invincibility. But the engineers who built it at the Naval Torpedo Station in Alexandria, Virginia, know its secret. Beneath its sleek casing, the Mark 18 carries a fragile heart. The steering gyroscope, a delicate brass instrument barely larger than a fist, can jam without warning. When that happens, the torpedo loses its sense of direction. It continues to run, not straight, but in a slow, perfect circle. A circular run, the manuals call it. The old submarine hands have a darker name: a suicide fish. Richard O'Kane knows about them. He has read the incident reports, one from USS Tullabee in 1944, which vanished after a torpedo turned back on its own track. Another from USS Sargo earlier that year, narrowly surviving when a Mark 18 looped back across its bow. The risk is real, but O'Kane has faith in discipline and calculation. His crew are the best, their firing solutions flawless. No one on Tang believes lightning can strike them. The final patrol begins September 24, 1944, from Pearl Harbor. Tang crosses the mid-Pacific under radio silence, slipping into the narrow, dangerous waters west of Luzon. Japanese convoys are moving again, desperate, disorganized supply runs feeding the collapsing defenses of the Philippines. Every gallon of fuel, every crate of ammunition matters to Tokyo's survival. O'Kane means to starve them dry. By early October, Tang is a phantom on the shipping lanes. She attacks at night, surfaced, racing through convoys like a knife through glass. Between October 10th and 22nd, she sinks 9 ships in 4 separate engagements, scattering lifeboats and wreckage across hundreds of miles of ocean. The crew work in shifts of exhaustion and 2 hours of sleep, then back to battle stations. Their faces are hollow, their eyes red from the glow of instrument lights, but their morale is unshakable. Every explosion feels like justice. On October 23rd, just before midnight, Tang encounters her largest prize yet: a convoy of 2 tankers, 2 freighters, and a single escort destroyer steaming through the Formosa Strait. The sea is calm, the moon hidden behind high cloud. Perfect hunting weather. At 2 a.m., O'Kane stands on the bridge, scanning through the darkness with his binoculars. 2,000 yards, he murmurs to his executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Edward Spruance, son of Admiral Raymond Spruance of Midway fame. The plan is surgical: fire 5 torpedoes, dive, reposition, then surface to finish the survivors. The first salvo hits like thunder. The destroyer explodes amidships. The tanker follows, its cargo erupting into a geyser of flame. Through the periscope, O'Kane watches lifeboats drop into burning oil. His face is expressionless. He's thinking about efficiency, not vengeance. In the torpedo room, crewmen reload the last two fish, Tang's 23rd and 24th torpedoes. They are electric Mark 18s from Lot 10, freshly issued at Pearl Harbor. Nobody notices that one of them has a slightly higher gyro resistance reading. A minor deviation, logged but dismissed as within limits. By 2:45 a.m. the convoy is destroyed. Only one freighter remains, heavily damaged, drifting south, fires burning down to embers. O'Kane surfaces to deliver the final strike. The sea around him glows orange from the floating slick of burning fuel. The smell is unbearable, hot oil, salt, and death. He steadies his periscope. Target dead ahead, bearing 312, range 900 yards, fire 10. The torpedo leaves the tube cleanly. The sonar operator listens for its propeller hum, a soft, steady rhythm in the headphones. "Running normal," he calls. The men in the control room exhale. One more kill, then home to Pearl Harbor, and a hero's welcome. 20 seconds pass, no explosion. Then the sound changes, a faint rising whine.
"Sir, she's turning," the soundman says sharply. O'Kane leans over his shoulder, listening. The pitch is unmistakable, the sound of a torpedo looping.
"Left full rudder," he shouts. "All ahead flank." The crew obeys instantly, but Tang is boxed in by wreckage and flames. There's nowhere to run. The submarine swings hard to port, the engines roaring, but the torpedo is faster. At 2:55 a.m. it completes its circle. The sound grows louder, sharper. The hunter returning home. There's a single moment of stillness, as if the ocean itself takes a breath. Then the world detonates. A deafening blast rips through the stern, snapping cables, crushing bulkheads, flooding compartments. The lights vanish, men are thrown from bunks and ladders. In the torpedo room, sailors vanish into a white cloud of steam. The aft half of Tang disintegrates. O'Kane is thrown from the bridge into the sea, slamming into debris. For seconds he can't breathe. The water around him glows with burning oil, the surface littered with wreckage and bodies. Below him, the submarine that once ruled the Pacific is folding in on itself, sinking fast into blackness. Inside, trapped crewmen fight to seal hatches, to reach escape lungs, to hold on to hope. A few make it into the forward compartments. Most do not. The depth gauge spins past 400 feet, then stops. The hull groans once, then is silent. Of the 87 men aboard, only 9 reach the surface. The rest vanish with Tang, victims of a weapon built to make them invincible. In the distance, Japanese escorts race toward the flames. O'Kane treads water, shivering, watching the sea where his ship once was. He knows what's coming: capture, interrogation, the shame of surviving when his crew did not. And yet, even as searchlights sweep over him, a terrible realization takes hold. The Tang's final patrol, the one that ended in its own destruction, has already become the most successful single submarine patrol in U.S. Navy history. 33 enemy ships sunk in total, 13 on this last mission alone. The weapon that betrayed them has already secured their place in history. The irony is unbearable. O'Kane stares into the smoke and says nothing. The sea closes around him, carrying the wreck of Tang down into silence, a tomb built by its own triumph. The explosion that rips through the Tang is unlike anything the Pacific has heard before. It's not a detonation that fades into the sea. It's a roar that seems to go on forever, echoing off the burning hulls of the Japanese convoy. The submarine's own torpedo has struck her aft section between the maneuvering room and the after torpedo compartment. The blast shears the pressure hull open like paper. In the control room, men are flung across consoles. Steam, smoke, and seawater rush in together. The red emergency lights flicker once and die. Someone screams for damage control. Someone else is already dead. The compartment fills in seconds. Lieutenant Commander Edward Spruance is thrown against the periscope housing, blood running down his temple. He can hear O'Kane shouting above the chaos, voice raw, ordering hatches closed, systems isolated. But there's no isolating a wound like this. The Tang is bleeding from her core. O'Kane, on the open bridge, never sees it coming. The blast hurls him into the air, into the black ocean, the shockwave knocking the breath from his lungs. He surfaces choking, gasping, surrounded by wreckage and fire. Around him, flaming oil slicks drift across the surface, his own handiwork from minutes earlier, the remains of the convoy he'd destroyed. Now those same flames illuminate his defeat. Below the surface, the submarine begins to sink stern first. Inside, 40 men remain alive, sealed in the forward compartments, as the hull slides into darkness. In the forward torpedo room, Petty Officer William Leibold and a handful of others find the watertight doors intact. The gauges read 180 feet and falling. They can feel the hull buckling under pressure, every groan of metal like an animal in pain. Leibold forces open the locker containing the Momsen lungs, the crude rebreathers designed for deep water escape. They have only a few left, rubber bags that will have to take them to the surface or kill them trying. The men know the odds. Very few have ever survived a submarine escape from that depth, but they try. One by one, they climb into the escape trunk, equalizing pressure as water floods around them. When the outer hatch finally blows, they are shot upward through the black water like shells from a gun barrel. Some never make it. Their lungs rupture or their suits tear apart, but a few, miraculously, break the surface. They find O'Kane already there, floating among debris. He recognizes Leibold and another sailor, gunner's mate Henry Klenk, both burned and half-blind from the explosion. They say nothing. There is nothing to say. The submarine that made them legends lies 180 feet below, still and silent. The survivors cling to bits of wreckage as dawn begins to break over the Formosa Strait. The sea that once carried their victories now feels endless, merciless. In the distance, a Japanese destroyer approaches, the same convoy escort O'Kane had tried to kill hours before. Its searchlights sweep across the water, catching the glint of faces, the curve of life vests. They are taken aboard at gunpoint. The Japanese sailors stare at them in disbelief. These burned, oil-soaked men who had single-handedly destroyed half their convoy. One officer sneers and says, through a translator, "You sank my ship." O'Kane looks up, his eyes bloodshot but steady. "Looks like we both had a bad night," he replies. He is beaten for it, but he doesn't care. The survivors are interrogated, stripped, and transferred to the mainland. They are moved through Takao, Taiwan, and then by rail to a Funa prison camp in Japan, the same secret interrogation facility that once held down Doolittle raiders and captured airmen from the B-29 raids. There are no Red Cross visits, no records, no rights. They are ghosts in the machinery of war. At Funa, O'Kane is placed in solitary confinement. The guards know who he is, or the commander of the most feared submarine in the Pacific. They mock him, call him the Sea Devil, and beat him during questioning. He endures starvation, cold, and disease. He never gives the Japanese intelligence anything of value. Leibold and the others fare little better. They survive on rice husks and rainwater, forced to bow every time a guard passes. Some prisoners lose their minds, others simply give up. O'Kane refuses. He keeps his mind alive by replaying every patrol of Tang in perfect detail. Every target, every firing solution, every order. He memorizes them all, as if his boat still exists somewhere beneath him, waiting to rise. Months pass, then a year. The world outside moves toward its bloody finale. The bombing of Tokyo, the fall of Okinawa, the atomic strikes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In August 1945, the guards vanish. The prisoners are left in silence, bewildered, half dead. On September 4, 1945, O'Kane is liberated by U.S. occupation forces. When he steps onto the deck of the rescue vessel, he weighs barely 100 pounds. He looks decades older. The doctors who examine him are astonished that he can still stand. But he asks only one question: did the war end? When the answer comes, yes, O'Kane bows his head, not in relief, but in grief. He knows his boat is gone, and with it 78 men who will never come home. He is the captain of both the most successful and the most tragic submarine patrol in U.S. history. As the ship steams toward Okinawa, he stands at the rail, staring east across the sea where the Tang still sleeps. He whispers their names under his breath, one by one. Below those same waves, the wreck rests upright on the seabed, its bow intact, its aft compartments crumpled from the explosion. The last torpedo tube remains open, the brass doors bent outward. The circular track of the fatal torpedo is invisible now, erased by silt and time. But in the silence, it's easy to imagine the echo still running, the perfect circle that began and ended in the same heartbeat. The men of Tang went to war believing their courage and skill could defy physics, fate, and the ocean itself. And for a time, they did. But in that final instant, the Pacific reminded them who it belonged to. The war ends, and Richard Hetherington O'Kane steps out of a secret world of cells and interrogation rooms into the hard, clean light of September 1945. He is skin and bone, but his eyes are steady. In San Francisco and Pearl Harbor, the Navy tallies what Tang did before she vanished into the Formosa Strait in the early hours of October 25, 1944. Convoy after convoy, broken, fuel tankers and freighters sent under by a boat that attacked faster and closer than anyone thought sane. The official wartime accounting will credit Tang with 33 enemy ships destroyed, an American submarine record, and call her Fifth Patrol the most successful in the service's history. The price for that record is written on the sea itself. In the months after repatriation, O'Kane refuses spectacle. He visits hospitals and barracks first, looking for his surviving men. He writes to families whose sons and husbands will not return, the letters spare and careful and honest. When asked about his own survival, he answers in sentences as trimmed as a firing solution. It was the crew, it was discipline, it was luck. On March 27, 1947, in Washington, D.C., President Harry S. Truman places the Medal of Honor around O'Kane's neck for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity during Tang's final patrol. The citation notes daylight and night surface attacks, point-blank torpedo runs, and the destruction of heavily escorted shipping that kept Japan's armies alive. O'Kane holds the medal like an artifact from another age. "This belongs to the boat," he says. By boat, he means steel and oil and circuitry, but also 87 men, 78 of whom did not come home. Peace scatters the silent service across classrooms and shipyards. O'Kane stays in uniform. He mentors new submariners who will fight a different, colder war with reactors instead of diesels and inertial platforms instead of stopwatches. In their briefings, he draws not arrows but circles, a reminder that technology grants power and risk in the same breath. He retires from active duty in the 1950s and turns to memory as craft. He writes Wahoo, 1951, a tribute to the boat where he learned audacity under Dudley Mush Morton, and years later, Clear the Bridge. 1977, a granular chronicle of Tang, the men, the methods, the days and nights when seconds decided everything. The prose is stripped and exacting, like his voice on a red battle phone. Time does what the ocean does, it erases and it preserves. Survivors like William Leibold live long enough to testify before archivists and schoolrooms. Names of the lost are cut into brass, patrol reports are unsealed, historians sift tonnage numbers and argue over lists, but the outline never changes. A boat that changed tactics by refusing distance, a commander who made a weapon behave like a blade, a final torpedo that carved a perfect, merciless circle. Long after flags are folded, expeditions sweep the Formosa, Taiwan Strait, mapping deep contours where steel once fell. Reports note wreckage consistent with a Palau-class submarine. bow sections largely intact, stern crushed where a blast would have struck. A torpedo door still gaped like an unfinished sentence. Whether diver, drone, or sonogram, what they find is less a discovery than a recognition. Everyone who knows the story already knows where Tang must be. The meaning settles in stages. In 1944, American submarines are the scalpel at the Empire's arteries. By strangling Japanese merchant shipping, they end a war faster than invasion alone could have done. They starve fleets of oil, factories of ore, and garrisons of food. Tang sits among the sharpest of those blades, and her commander becomes the war's most lethal hunter, not because he hated, but because he refused waste of opportunity, of time, of nerve. He trusted men and math at ranges where error is fatal. The same mathematics, twisted by a jammed gyroscope in a Mark 18 electric torpedo, closed the circle on his own hull. O'Kane lives a long life. He writes, lectures, answers, patient letters. He visits memorials, and when asked what young officers should remember, he says, "The ocean is honest." He dies in 1994 in California, decades removed from that black October night, but never far from it. The Medal of Honor rests in a museum case. His books remain on desks where new submariners learn to think in 3 dimensions and in seconds, and Tang endures where history and physics meet, in cold, moving water, far from harbors and speeches. The wreck is a lesson shaped in steel. Innovation is a blade with 2 edges. Victory in modern war is written in logistics and the willingness to close, but also in the humility to know what cannot be controlled. In the Pacific, the boats won a battle of numbers by daring, and the daring was always measured against a margin that grew thinner the closer they steered to the target. Some legacies stand on pedestals. This one lies on the seabed, bow toward open water, as if still hunting. The Pacific rolls over it without ceremony. But the circle that ended Tang did not close on her meaning. It widened through the lives saved by convoys never reached, through the crews trained by a quiet New Hampshire officer who taught them to be exact, and through a single medal he insisted belonged to men whose names most people never hear. Listen long enough, and the sea keeps 2 sounds, distant commerce the submariners silenced, and a softer pulse, the echo of a torpedo's run that turned for home. It is not just tragedy, it is the price of mastery, paid in full, and remembered where the charts mark only depth.